Brakathia Howell, Brakathia Howell Shai, Brakathia Howell, Brakathia Howell Shai, Brakathia Howell, Brakathia Howell Bashem Yah Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash, the bonds of the apostles and the elders of great mills on you well. And salutations to the whole field elect out there. You brothers that sincerely believe in this thing, the utmost truth and sincerity. Just a quick lesson, real quick. I'm going to entitle this one, Why I See the War in Revelation 3:6 in 3:16 in Hebrew, or why does the wall pop up in Hebrew for Revelation 3:16? And hopefully, some bit of edification could be said real quickly. Now, this is a book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 16. It says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." And I'm reading out of the King James Bible using the My Sword app. Now, I did a lesson on the My Sword app and how to use it. It's a great tool to have. You could download many different Bibles, many different lexicons, many different dictionaries, commentaries, all these things in a third. And I want to bring something to you brothers' attention that some of you brothers might have came across and thought, why did I see this? Now, I'm going to hit compare. Now, what it's going to do is going to compare Revelation 3:16 with a couple different translation of the Bible. Notice you don't see it in ALXX, all right? You don't see that in LXX. LXX means 70. We're going to go back to that later. Notice that. Just keep that in mind. You do not see that in LXX, all right? Now, you have different versions here. Byzantine 205 Greek. What we want to do is we want to scroll down to the Hebrew. And right off the bat, you're going to notice the Hebrew word there in both these Hebrew Bibles. They're going to have Thawa, right? They're going to have, let me see if I can highlight it. I'm trying to highlight it. Yep, there it is. It's highlighted. That's the Tha character and the Wa character, and that's the same Thawa that we see, Slakia. Cancel. That is the same Thawa that we see in Ezekiel 9 and 4. But we know that Ezekiel 9 and 4, the word there for mark, is a different mark than the mark used in Revelation in the Greek. So one might say, well, they have the Hebrew. And yes, the book of Matthew's, the New Testament was written in Hebrew. That is correct, 100% correct. But this Hebrew that you're looking at is not the Hebrew that was translated into Greek. But rather, you're looking at Hebrew that is like of English to Hebrew translation, if you will. Meaning they're taking the English word mark and put it into Hebrew. That's how come you have this Thawa here. You're gonna see it in both these Hebrew translations here. You're gonna see it up top, and again you're gonna see it right here. Let me see if I can highlight it again. You're gonna see Thawa. It should be right there. If you seen it the first time, the same character is there, right? Now, I'm going back to the King James. Let's hold it the King James. And what I'm going to do is just have the King James version. I'm going to the Greek concordance right here. And the Greek that we have here for Mark is 5480, correct? Which means charagma, goes back to charax. You get a stamp, imprinted mark, mark branded upon, sculpture graven, right? Now, for brothers that are a bit more seasoned in this thing, what I'll say is with the My Sword app, when you use the Blue Letter Bible and you use the My Sword app, most of the concordance you have for your Greek is gonna be the Strong's concordance. All right. You could download different concordances out there. Before I jump ahead, let me go to the one brothers commonly know is the Strong's or the Strong's Like Concordance. When you go to the Blue Letter, that's the one you're gonna see. See, and it goes back to charax. All right, it goes back to charax, a pale, a stake, or a palisade or a rampant. Now, that's the Strong's, and charagma goes back to charax, right? Now, this is what I want to show you. There's different Hebrew to Greek lexicons out there. There's 70 All right. What this does, this the one that you see says L, you might see it as LXX. That's actually Greek for 70. 70 goes back to the Septuagint. So what this Hebrew to Greek what this Greek to Hebrew concordance does, it gives you the Greek, pardon me, it gives you the Hebrew root of the Greek word. For example, I'll give you a quick example. The English word math goes back to the Greek mathematica, or pardon me, it goes back to the Latin mathematica, which goes back to the Greek mathematica, which goes back to the Hebrew amath. Now, does the Hebrew word for amath means math? It does not. The Hebrew word for amath means truth, but the root of that English word math, or the Greek word math, goes back to a Hebrew word which means truth, which is amath, correct? Now, this particular concordance, what it does that for you. It gives you the Hebrew root origins of the Greek word there for charagma. And the more accurate Hebrew word there is these words here. At the very bottom, you have matazawar, H4692, and you have shalala, shallah, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to another Hebrew Greek lexicon that I have there. This one is the AM Greek lexicon, right? Same thing for charagma. We're trying to get to the root of it, right? You're gonna see that it says charagma in the LXX, or the Septuagint. The Septuagint goes back to the Library of Alexandria, Egypt, where you had the entire Bible translated in Greek. So what it's telling you right now is telling you the Hebrew word for that Greek equivalent would be H550, H4692, which is not Thawar, which is not the Hebrew word Thawar, which you see in the book of Ezekiel, but however, the Hebrew word there you will see is what? A mound, all right? But used passively, all right? It says active, but used passively, a military mound that is a rampart for besieging bank or mount, correct? Or H4692, which means here we go, matazawar, which means a siege enclosure, or siege entrenchment, or siege works, because that's really what karax or charagma would be, that Hebrew equivalent of, because what you're looking up top is a palisades, right? And the second thing you'll see here, it says a palisade or a rampant, right? Now let's go to the book of Luke chapter 19, verse 43, which I have here, right? Again, the book of Luke chapter 19, 43 says, "For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemy shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side." Now that word there for trench, all right, you're gonna get the same thing. You're gonna get that karax. It's gonna go back to I'll show you. Let me just go ahead and click it. Sorry, the phone is having a bit of delay, but you're gonna get that same karax, all right? A pointed stake, a palisade, or a rampart, all right? Because that's really what karak goes back to. It goes back to these stakes that you see above, a palisade, all right? It was used for trench warfare. So the more accurate Hebrew word, or the more accurate root origin, as it says in this the LXX, or the Septuagint. Okay, when you see LXX, it means the Septuagint. The Septuagint is the Hebrew Bible, because remember that our people were scattered all throughout the Greek Empire. So some of them lost their heritage and no longer knew how to speak Hebrew, so the Bible was converted to Greek. That's when you see LXX, it means Septuagint or 70, all right? Now, it's telling you the equivalent of that Hebrew, all right? Meaning if they was to take that Hebrew word and put it in the Greek, all right, the root origin will be a mound or a trench or a siege engine, siege type engine. Again, a mound, which is shal la. All right. Or okay, that's Hebrew 5550, and the Hebrew 4692, which is Mataza, Matazawar, which is a siege enclosure or siege works. All right, and I'll give the example again. The Hebrew root word for mathematica, which is math, like you go to school for math, is actually truth. Okay, it goes back to that root truth, because math is true. 2 + 2 = 4. There's no debating it. It's the truth. Okay, period. Math is truth. It's now again the same thing with that karax. It goes back to that Hebrew word that we just went into. The root in the Hebrew root word is not the wall, but however, a mount or palisade or siege work. And you could always refer back to Luke chapter 19, verse 43, where you'll get that same karax. Okay, now what I want to do now is close out with a dictionary definition. We're going to just use the Webster's dictionary, and we're going to go to a palisades. All right, because that's what that mark is. This is it. It's a stake. It's an incision. It's that chip, man. All right, but again, when you get yourself a Hebrew Bible, most Hebrew Bibles, what they're doing is they're taking that English word mark and throwing it back into Hebrew, which of course, see, that's why the scripture says the same word uttered in Hebrew and in a different language have a different force to it, man. All right, because what they're doing is they're taking that the common King James English and putting it back into Hebrew. All right. All right, we don't want to do that. We want to use true lexicons, which gives us the Septuagint equivalent of that Greek word to Hebrew. All right, so I'm going to look up the word palisades. That's how come when we clicked, remember when I went on the different Bible translations, you don't see the New Testament translated in the Septuagint Greek, okay, because the Septuagint Greek was put together before the New Testament, because the New Testament was in Hebrew, but if it was that Septuagint translation, you'll have that Hebrew root word origin, all right, which goes back to like a mound or a siege work. All right, here's a palisades. It says a fence or fortification consisting of row of stakes or post. Is not that Hebrew word? The Hebrew word Montezawar, that's what it goes into. It goes into a fence or a fortification consisting of rows of stakes or posts or sharpened and set firmly in the ground. In fortification, the posts are set 2 or 3 inches apart, parallel to the parapet in the covered way to prevent a surprise. All right, palisades serve to fortify the avenues, to open fords, gorges, half moons, the bottom of ditches. And the palisades is something similar that what you saw in that movie, not The Last Kingdom, but Outlaw King. All right, that Sir Robert Bruce set up. Okay, so again, that Hebrew root origin. Okay, when you want to look it up, don't use a Hebrew Bible to have your New Testament translated, but rather what you want to do is you want to use different lexicons that will have the Septuagint equivalent of that Greek word to Hebrew. All right, so and when we do that, we get a stake. All right, we get that the word mark or karax really goes back to that palisades. All right, hey, so with that, this is a quick lesson. I hope you brothers was edified. So if you bump across that Thawa rather, pardon me, that you see in Revelations 13 and 16 in the Hebrew, that's because it was translated rather from English to Hebrew and not that lexicon. Pardon me, that Septuagint Hebrew root lexicon equivalent. Okay. So with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, which are well, of course, and salutations to the hopeful elect out there, man. You brothers that sincerely do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.